The false start rule has been around since the beginning of track and field. Just like in any other sport, a false start is when you take a forward action right before the signal or command is given. This rule has been changed and played with over the past 15 to 20 years to see what is the most reasonable and the fairest rule to follow. Unlike football, the false start in track and field is not as obvious sometimes. There's a lot more science behind it to ensure that there's a clean start. Another way you can false start is for your hand to be on the start line. Prior to the year 2012, if you flinched or twitched in the blocks, then it would be ruled as a false start. Essentially, in all championship track meets, the runners are required to use pressure-sensitive starting blocks. Before 2003, the IAAF had a rule that if an athlete moves within 0.1 seconds after the gun goes off, then it is an automatic false start. So it seems pretty simple. If you leave before the sound, then you have false started. The first false start in the heat will be charged to the field, and any false start after that would lead to disqualification. After years of studying this, scientists has concluded that it would be impossible for anyone to react faster than 0.12 seconds. This is because the brain does not work that fast. First, the gun has to go off. Second, the sound has to travel from the gun to the ear. Then the ears register sound, which sends impulses to the brain. Next, the brain processes sound, which sends the signal to run. Finally, the signal is received by the muscles, then the sprinter goes. In this picture, you see that the average reaction time was 0.125. Even with those two obvious false starts, the average time was above the legal limit. Now, as we take a look at the middle lanes, lanes 4 and 5, we see that two people react too early. Even though they technically went after the gun sounded, they still were eligible for the false start. They call this jumping the gun. It was basically when you anticipate the gun sound. Now watch to see how little this movement is. Sometimes the human eye cannot detect when there is a false start because it happens so fast. That's when the blocks come into play. As stated before, the pressure-sensitive blocks are connected to the starting gun, which is also connected to the microphones behind the blocks. The purpose of the microphone is to ensure that the sound reaches all of the runners at the same time. If they don't use this, then lane 1 would hear the gun before lane 8, which would technically put them at an advantage. People have many different opinions about the one and done rule. By the time athletes get to the end of the year, they are ready to run fast, then the worst thing could happen is a false start. It's really hard for athletes to keep their composure and sit still in the blocks when they are at big meets. It happens to the best. It even happens at the Olympics. Athletes train hard for 4 years and get to the big stage and becomes overly excited. The adrenaline is rushing at an all-time high, and some people will start too early. One of the most famous and disappointing false starts in history was at the 2011 World Championships in Daegu in the 100-meter dash. The favorite in this race was Usain Bolt. The anticipation that led up to this race was probably one of the most advertised ever. After millions of fans tuned in to watch to see if the record was going to be broken, he false started.
You see, when I've gone through the bad starts, the bad races, and it finally came together at the right time, and I pretty much squandered it, I would say. Can't believe it happened. I kept saying to myself, why I fast start? Why did he fast start? Why did he fast start? I don't know what happened. I keep saying to myself, well, how did that happen? I've never fast start. Major championships, that's me. That's what I live for. All I could hear was something said, go in my head. And I just went. And after that, I was like, what the hell just happened? But I guess tonight I was my worst enemy. So, because I should have won that race easy. But can't dwell on the past, mate. I'm not dwelling. Manchester United just won, I'm happy.